First of all, I'm an Egyptian tennis player. I played Davis Cup for Egypt for about 12 years. Played on the ATP tour for about 6 years. Played several, a lot of the top tournaments and Grand Slams and so forth. But like all of us, if you don't reach the cream or the top of the top in our field, like being, let's say, top 20 or so, you're going to have some sort of a career after you finish your professional tennis career as a player. And that took me a little bit, to finish my education here in the States. I live in Tampa in Florida, and started my own tennis center quite a long time ago here in Tampa. And we've coached a lot of professional athletes. We've coached a lot of youngsters, a lot of beginners, a lot of leagues. So it was a different step for me in the beginning of my career. And then from then on, I continued my relationship with the ATP Tour, and being based a little bit in Florida here in Tampa, and then continue doing my coaching with the center, as well as becoming the president of GPTCA for Egypt, Ecuador, and the US since 2014. Some of the players that I've coached is Vasek Pospisil, who was top 10 in doubles and top 25 in singles, and a lot of other players in the top 70 over the past 20 years.
We're looking forward to your presentation at the World Tennis Conference in March. You're talking about the brain development process. Tell us a bit more about your presentation.
Look, it was a very, I spoke with Fernando and with such an amazing group of people that are presenting. First I have to thank everybody for their effort in putting this thing together. Fernando's working nonstop. You guys are working nonstop. It's been a dream of ours as coaches and GPTCA presidents to get together, to do something all together. And finally, it's materializing. So I'd like to thank everybody first on making it happen. Secondly, in regards to, picking a topic, I knew the topics that pretty much everybody's going to focus on. So I wanted to pick a topic that's interesting to me and that also a lot of the coaches need. And an area that is new to tennis, I would still say is learning more about the brain development, learning more about the science behind it, learning more about the neural signals between the brain and the muscles. So my presentation will take the development of the brain as a human brain and the different ages and the difference between the male and female development of the brain and at certain times and all that, and how we can apply that into our sport. When we coach players, a lot of the troubles that we face might not be technical, and they might not be in regards to developing the strokes of the player. A lot of it, if the player believes in themselves or if they believe in their brain that they can successfully produce a better result or a better stroke, they end up doing better. So part of also the presentation is gonna focus on the endurance of the brain, how we can remain focused over long periods of time, how our players can maintain the level of excitement. Because as we know, tennis is very repetitive. You do the same thing over and over and over again. How can we keep that exciting for our brain? And how can we teach our athletes and our young coaches how to make sure that they read the signals well, that it might not be a physical issue. It could be a brain issue, and how to make practices a little bit more fun. Besides my 40 years in the business and besides coaching all those top players, I'm a fan of sports psychology, always have been. A lot of courses in sports psychology, a lot of personal experience, a lot of reading materials from different sports. I believe that our sports is very closely linked to all the professional athletes and other sports. I would like to say more the individual sports than the group sports, but there's a lot we can learn. So to me, making sure that, I'm always trying to improve myself. I have had, several discussions with a lot of the doctors, through my career in regards to how I improve as a tennis player. And from that background comes my interest in sports psychology and brain development. But I'm by no means a physical doctor or anything like this, or claim to be. But I think from my experience, my personal experience coaching players, I'd like to share these experiences, what worked for me, what I thought would work and didn't work, and why, so that people can avoid my mistakes and become better and even move more forward than I have in that field.
How important do you think is the mind when it comes to high performance?
Look, from my experience, you're talking 80% or more, because most of the players that have already reached the top ranking of, like, let's say 100 or 120 in the world, all the basic work pretty much has been done prior. So they all have the tools. They have the forehand, the backhand, the game. But the mental aspect of things, their approach towards the match, is a very big question mark to me. What they believe they can do and what they don't believe they can do is a very, 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 very big point, and that's where the brain comes in. So believing in yourself, making sure that you have also a very short-term memory, if you will, when you play at that level. You cannot, for example, keep thinking about a mistake that you did the last game, or last time I got beat by this player. So like, you have to put things behind you. How do you accept that? Controlling the controllables, making sure that there's only a few things I can control, but the result I cannot control, the process I can. So how our top players are going to be able to focus on the things they can actually control. I cannot control how my opponent is going to react to what I'm doing, but I can read it well, and I can scout them well, and I can put a game plan to counter that. And this happens, as you know, in a very, very short span of time. The good players, I think, in my opinion, they change strategies 2 and 3 times within 1 point. You're from offense, you're on defense, then you're on offense again, and then you're thinking about the next point. The serving, for example, serving spots. It's a little bit of a chess game. It's a mental game. You have to mix up your serves. So how do you read your opponent, and how do you read the patterns that you've been hitting? Last game, I went wide a couple of times. My opponent read that. He made a couple of good returns. How am I going to change my serve? So, all these things I think are mental.
Like something that you said, I really think that champions forget very fast. They lose a match and that match is, so I like that. Another part that you brought that I think is very important is that a lot of players, including in the Pro Tour, they don't understand where they are in the match. Players high ranked in the ATP Tour that miss an important shot, and after that, because they don't understand really where they are mentally in the match.
Correct. 100%. I agree with that, Gabe. And to add to that is learning also that, mistakes are part of the process. And how to get over a mistake. Like, for example, a lot of players, when they have several break points and they don't succeed in actually having the break or making the break, they tend to have, to take a step back. And in my opinion, that is just an affirmation that you're playing great tennis. I mean, if you're going to give yourself 4 or 5 break points every game, eventually you will break. So learning how to lose important points and still maintain your composure and your fitness, brain fitness, if you will, during the match is also very important. So I agree with what you said 100%.
How important do you think this concept of the GPTC to have right now, this type of conference to educate coaches, not only coaches that have been on the field for a long time, but young coaches coming up? For example, if we talk about Egypt, how important is this conference for those coaches?
Coaches that I know are interested in learning more. And that's what we want for our younger coaches, is that they know what needs to be studied. How do I reach that? And we are giving them the information. Whether they use it or not, I believe whoever uses this information will have a place in the future in the tennis coaching business. Anyone who is going to be satisfied and is going to ignore what we are trying to say or the important things that all the top pros have agreed upon, I think they will be left behind. And that's a choice I think every coach will have to make for themselves.
Information is information, but the way that you explain that, the way that you show that information, the way that you tell the story, how you use it, it's going to make an impact. Let me tell you that the World Tennis Conference will be used for national federations, some national federations, to giving points for the coaches if they are all like participant. It's not only the information, it's the way that you can use it, because that's the key. The key, because you have the information. Right now probably is the best time on tennis. You can find information everywhere. But the thing is how you're gonna apply, how you're gonna use it, how you're gonna manage that information, and because the success is how the player interprets that information, not how much you know about tennis. That is a key aspect for coaches.